When going to camp, people often try to make friends to distract themselves from the absolute boredom of their situation. Unless you're one of the very few nerds who like to go to camp, in which case... get away from me. Friends are made in a lot of different ways too, such as finding commonalities in things you like or hate. After all, relatability is what makes us connected with one another. In Camp, Max befriends two of his fellow campers right off the bat, Nikki and Neil. This is when chaos meets science. To get started, let's dive into both of their characteristics and personalities. Nikki, also known as Nicolette, is a 10-year-old girl who doesn't hide who she is for very long. Hyper, airheaded, and tree-hugging. She's a real animal. No, not like that, get that shit out of here. By acting like an animal, I mean she does stuff animals usually do, like exert dominance over others by biting, digging, barking, getting on all fours, and okay, yeah, she just sounds like a furry. This doesn't just extend to how she acts, but also how she looks. Dirt always lingers on her face, a band-aid on her cheek symbolizing her carefree nature. She's basically a tomboy like Arid. On the other end of the spectrum, we have Neil, an 11-year-old boy who is a nervous, awkward, and cautious nerd. He's a deductive scientist, but isn't self-aware enough in his situation as Max is. He's book smart, but not street smart, unable to catch on when he's being manipulated by people like Max. So, how did they end up here? Simple answer, they both got tricked just like the rest of the campers. Nikki thought she was going to an adventure camp, while Neil thought it was a space camp. Neil was especially pissed off when he found out that he was being scammed, chewing out Cameron Campbell and earning the respect of Max in the process. Nikki sorta just plays it off, not caring as much since they're in the woods anyway, so she can still do what she does best, be one with nature. There are tons of other similarities and differences that arise as the show goes on, so let's just take a look into some of the episodes so you can see what I mean. Our first episode to crack open is Scout's Dishonor, where we get a small glimpse into their lives and past. On the boat during the group's attempt to escape, we get an exchange between Nikki and Neil over what they will do on the outside, with Nikki commenting how she'll live in the woods, get raised by a pack of wolves, and then become their alpha. Neil has a more twisted answer. Go back home to tell his dad that his mom sent him to an abusive summer camp so he could twist his mom's arm into buying back his love. This gives us a hint at Neil's home life that I'll talk about later. We also learn that Nikki used to be a flower scout, which went about as well as trying to paint the Mona Lisa with a chainsaw, though she may not have come here out of her own free will as shown later on. Camp Cool Kids is where we see how Nikki and Neil view leadership. After causing an insurrection that sees the kids rule the camp, there is almost an immediate split between who should rule the camp. Nikki suggesting that Arid should be the ruler due to her being cool, while Neil suggests Max because Arid doesn't have the spreadsheets to rule. Off topic, but where the fuck did Neil get those bombs from? Nikki is then manipulated by Arid into attacking Max because they are uncool, culminating in a brawl between Max and Nikki that ends after Cameron Campbell comes in to put everyone down before leaving. Into Town is a major episode when examining Nikki. The beginning of it sees Nikki, Neil, and Max all hide in the back of the station wagon while trying to figure out how David spends his free time in town. When they get to town, Neil immediately gravitates towards the electronics shop while Nikki looks at a women's clothing store. But something is off about her. She starts feeling sick, which is ignored by Max entirely. As Max and Nikki try to track down David, we start to see Nikki get worse and worse. Looking closer, her hair is neatly tied and she starts wearing a dress with traditional feminine shoes. She is transforming into a girl, which is a problem because she apparently needs nature or else she'll die. Her love of nature is what makes her not just feel alive metaphorically, but also literally. A quirk that isn't forgotten as shown in City Survival, where she carries around a paper bag with dirt that she huffs every so often so she doesn't kick the bucket. Going back to Neil, we know he's smart, but that doesn't mean that he can't fall for even the simplest of things, like magic, as shown in Mind Freakers, where Harrison is performing magic with Nikki until Neil appears trying to be all high and mighty, boldly making the claim that there is no such thing as magic. This causes Harrison to do some more tricks that Neil keeps debunking, until he eventually makes Max vomit out handkerchiefs, with Harrison refusing to explain how he performed this trick. causing Neil to go insane trying to figure it out with math and reasoning, even attempting to recruit Nikki to get more information for him. This ultimately ends with Neil recreating the trick by shoving handkerchiefs down Nikki's throat. Predictably, it doesn't end well as she then collapses on the floor with mouth foaming. Harrison then runs upstage to try to save her with a spell, but Neil refuses, trying to figure it out with science. Time flickers by and eventually Neil breaks down and declares he believes in magic, thus proving that Harrison could trick Neil, a cynical, close-minded asshole, to believe in magic, thus showing that the whole thing was a setup in the process.
Fuck you, Harrison.
Hey, who here has a sweet tooth? 'Cause I do, and Camp treats sugar like it's a drug, as shown in Candy Kingpin. Here we find out that Nikki has quit candy cold turkey because she can't handle herself when under its influence. She loves candy so much that she's willing to go through extreme lengths to get some, such as bribery, costume disguises, and literally throwing herself off of a cliff to get some taste. She clearly has a massive addiction that she resolved and then relapses thanks to Max and Dolph. Antisocial Network is another example of Neil's smartness and Nikki's stupidity and easy manipulation. Neil creates a literal AI of himself with calculators and a PC because he wants to be left alone. He is somewhat introverted after all. Ironically, this episode came out in 2017, long before AI usage was a hot button topic to cover in the media. Anyways, things get out of hand when the AI starts to evolve, with it convincing Nikki to plug it into the router so it could take over the world. The AI fails its goal due to the camp's terrible internet speed, so it just deletes itself instead.
Killed itself.
Next up we have... Parents' Day. Well, I guess it's time to talk about the inevitable, their parents.
Fuck.
Parents' Day is a bombshell of an episode for most of the campers, with Nikki and Neil being no exceptions. As we find out, both of their parents are divorced, with Nikki's mom, Candy, being a gold digger, and Neil's dad, Carl, being a philosopher trying to connect with his son by dressing up as him, while Candy just straight up neglects Nikki. During the family dinner, Carl still attempts to connect with Neil, but his lack of any real knowledge of basic science keeps annoying him, until Candy comes over after Carl forgets Nikki's name and starts flirting with him. Nikki catches on pretty quickly and jokes with Neil about it, causing him to try to get his dad to bring out Socrates, which backfires when Candy still loves him, for his money of course. The parents end up hooking up and, how shall we say it? Stuffing the turkey inside the prop set during the final performance. We get to see that Neil does know about sex while Nikki doesn't, as shown by her saying that they are wrestling and cheering them on. Overall, Neil is the smarter of the two when it comes to the fundamentals of life and the greater knowledge adults generally process, while he lacks intellect on the kind of stuff Nikki gets herself into. I suspect that Nikki wasn't planned, which could explain why she's neglected so much. As a result of this neglect, she probably is forced to play outside a lot more than she normally would. That explains the need to seek validation with animals. AI isn't the only meta thing Camp covers. How about that time Neil made a cryptocurrency and fundraiser? This is honestly such a weird concept for them to do, but Neil did it anyway, and it wasn't a one-time thing either, because it is mentioned later on in City Survival when he tries to use it to buy food from a food truck. Neil is a scientist, which does allow him to create a potion to give himself a deeper voice. But before he could test it on himself, Nikki has already drank some and was feeling sick as a result. Some of her symptoms being getting stomach cramps, weird food cravings, mood swings. Wait a minute, is she having her first period?
Nope, she's just growing up.
What? No, that's even worse!
This just goes to show none of the campers know about periods. Or maybe Neil does and was just too panicked by the fact Nikki could be suffering on his account to realize it. Another episode where Neil makes a potion is in Can't Handle the Truth Serum, where Neil makes a prototype for a truth serum, which Cameron Campbell casually drinks, and then Neil has to make an antidote in just a day, which he manages to accomplish easily. This show really just likes to make this kid feel guilty, huh? One quirk of Neil's personality is that he isn't shy of hurting others in the name of science. For example, he attempts to take some of Space Kid's blood while he's asleep, breaking the tube in his arm, and instead of going to report what he did, he instead asks for a new test tube and attempts to shoo away what he did to break it. Along with the previously mentioned mind freakers, Neil has a history of mad science-like experiments. Like when the camp gets a 3D printer, everyone makes some random things like trophies, escape jackets, or a piece of paper of what to print out. Thanks, Nikki. Oh, but not Neil. He manages to create a literal fucking Hadron Collider at camp. How the fuck does he even have power to run that thing? Another point to go over is that both of these characters try too hard to be liked or fit in. Let's rewind back to Camp Cool Kids, where the only reason Nikki chooses Arid is because she wants to be cool like her, a point that is continuously brought up as the series progresses. As previously stated, Nikki seeks validation from those she perceives as cool as a result of her parents' neglect, but Neil often doesn't care for other people's approval. Usually. In Culture Day, everyone is fascinated by his Jewish heritage, which he leverages by fabricating stories and becoming popular as a result, letting it get to his head until his lies pile up so high that they overwhelm him, with the final straw coming from Max forcing Neil to spill the truth from the actual Hanukkah book he was given. Their egos drive these two again in With Friends Like These, which completely changes their personalities in the beginning, making them more like Max than themselves, so I won't be talking about that episode. Sorry, it just sucks. If you want more detail, go watch my rant video on it. But what happens when their personalities are switched? For that answer, we take to the Butterfinger effect, where after a series of stupid events, Neil switches gears and becomes a literal animal, cranking Nikki's personality up to 11, and storming into the woods with foam coming out of his mouth like he's got rabies. Nikki switches to becoming a scientist but still acts stupid and hyper, which I think is funny as fuck that they couldn't crank Neil's personality up to 11 for her because she's too stupid for that. This switch up is great because it shows how these two perceive each other. What about their love lives? As Neil was asked by Carl,
"Are you interested in any ladies around here?"
well, yes actually, in the Lake Lilac Summer Social, where we get to see a funny love square play out between some of the campers of each camp. Tabby likes Neil and has since the 3rd episode, but Neil doesn't like her back, but he likes Erin because she's super smart, but she likes Snake and Snake likes Tabby. And in this whole entanglement, we see that Neil is extremely awkward when trying to talk to someone he has a crush on. Yeah, me too, man. Me too. This all culminates in the final act when all 4 of them are about to slow dance together, before it is then revealed that the girls were only using the guy to make the other person jealous, which pisses off Neil and thus he berates Erin and storms off with Snake. This is the only crush he actually develops throughout the whole show. Nikki, on the other hand, has never expressed even the slightest bit of love for any of the campers beyond friendship, with the closest we get being Arid? At least that's what some speculate, and by some I mean one Reddit post with 92 upvotes and 12 comments. I think she's asexual, but that's my speculation. One last thing that they both have in common is that they both agree that Max has been changing since the start of camp. Still a douche, but a douche with a growing sense of empathy that Max himself doesn't agree with. The footage I'm using is from Time Capsules. In this episode, everyone except Space Kid is worried about their futures, which causes Neil to start copying Space Kid 1-to-1 on what he is doing, as he hasn't stopped smiling since he started collecting clocks. Get it? Because it's a time capsule? Hilarious writing, right? Nikki believes it's too late to change how they are, even though she's 10, and that they need to find something they like now or else they are fucked. This spiral of madness only comes to a close after Cameron Campbell gives everyone a big brain beatdown about how they will never know what they will do in life, and that life is scary and unpredictable. The fact they worry about this at such a young age while also not understanding life is an interesting note to leave our final example on. The depth these characters have is astounding, dare I say, more so than that of Max. They have so many things that make them unique, while also not diving into the realm of impossibility. But hey, that's what happens when chaos meets science. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you later.